Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords, and I was about to do a totally different video today that I had the topic lined up, but then I heard some news that is breaking news and that I felt I should share with you. I'm putting this out as soon as I've finished recording it, so it's going to be coming out today because it's hair of the moment news, I guess you'd say. So, but first, check out here, we've got Dark Albion, my very first medieval authentic book. And over here is the Cult of Chaos, which is an incredible generator. It's what really changed my game for random tables, right? It's creating generators or series of tables. And here is its descendant, the Gonzo Fantasy Companion. So in Cult of Chaos, you can generate evil, medieval fantasy cults and sects and groups and servants of evil gods and all sorts of things. And in Gonzo Fantasy Companion, you can generate all kinds of crazy, weird stuff. There's random robots, random complexes, random mutants, random animals, random creatures, all sorts of things. And there's stuff also in the Gonzo Companion that is not just random, right? There's stuff that's descriptive or collections of items or things like that. So all three of these, very well worth picking up. Two of them are among my older works there. By coincidence, I pulled them out, so be sure to check those out. And also, check out my newest, if you like medieval authentic stuff, check out my newest issue of the Pundit Files, which is The Bones of St.Florian. This is a new medieval authentic adventure. If you're looking for a game that has explicitly Christian thematics, well, or an adventure rather that has that, this would be one of them. And because it's based on a medieval legend, so you could check that out in the Red Room. The Dark Albion, Cults of Chaos, Gonzo Fantasy Companion. You get a drive-through RPG. The links are all in the description below. The Pundit Files you get in the Red Room, which the link is also in the description below, along with the link to that particular issue and to the previous one and to the other ones. And Pundit Files issues are PDF only from the Red Room, and they only cost $3.50. Okay. Also, I want to make one more note. I'm front loading this because, of course, people quit watching after. There's a lot less people get to the end of the video than to the start. So if you know anyone, because on Sunday I'm going to be doing the RPG Pundit Encounter again, and I'm going to get a guest, obviously, but I've been had like two people that were at the top of my list to come on. One of them had agreed previously, but then he couldn't match up the times, and so I tried again this time, but he also couldn't match up the times. And another one agreed, and everything was good, and then his wife reminded him that he had to do something that day, right? So Sunday night, so that didn't work out either. So I'm still looking for someone. If you want to recommend or to suggest someone, please do so in the comments or send me a message on X. Okay, I made a thread on X about this. We'll see who I get. I'm sure I'm going to get someone interesting. It probably won't be someone at the scale of Sandy Peterson this time, but rather, I want to encourage people that have just started publishing RPG products, or that are just kind of starting or have had for a while but haven't really developed their YouTube channel. And it should be OSR ideally. If it's other traditional gaming, it could be. Obviously Sandy Peterson is not an OSR guy, but there you go. So yeah, just let me know if you want to take a shot at being considered, or if you want to recommend someone to be considered. Okay. All right. So now the big news. That's big news about proving I was right, which is the favorite kind of news I love to get. Right. There is nothing I like more than news that says, you know what, the pundit was right. That's the greatest news. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoy this. No, hang on. I should explain what it is, actually. So this is the fact, right? We have had the new edition, the 1D&D, that has been produced and came out. It came out late. It was supposed to come out with a BTT that still has no sign, zero sign whatsoever of being ready to go at any time. There's no date for it. There's nothing set for it, which means that it is a massive clusterfuck, right? And that is probably the worst news for them, but we already knew that, right? So they did release the 1 D&D edition gradually, right? It was supposed to be released last year, 2024. It was meant to be the 3 books coming out in the same time in that year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. But they couldn't even get that together, right? Why? Because they fired almost everyone who knows how to design RPGs. They fired almost everyone who's a decent writer. They have a bunch of DEI hires who are useless for anything. I mean, I have to say, I'm not a fan of Jason Tondro, but I do admire that guy's stamina, because the amount of other people's work he must be doing right now would probably give a normal man a heart attack, you know. And anyways, they also shuttered their publishing house, right? Because they said, fuck it, we're going to have the VTT, right? We're going to be doing that now. So it's not like, we're not going to need to have our own book publishing, and it'll just compete with the VTT. Of course, they haven't finished the VTT, and it doesn't look like there's any sign of it finishing. So this has been quite a disaster. The books came out late. 2 out of 3 books are quite late. And so, and there were some other 50th anniversary items that are coming out in the 51st anniversary, apparently. But they did come out with the Player's Handbook and the DMG, and eventually it'll be the Monster Manual. I don't think that is out yet, but they've shown some of the previews of it, right? But which means that they're approaching the time of that coming out. And there were some figures you might remember, because I reported about this. There's a way to monitor bookstore sales, and the bookstore sales for 1 D&D were abysmal, right? Like, they were unbelievably low, as in, like, possibly some of my books, like, Dark Albion Platinum Bestseller, sold more than those books, which is crazy, right? And everybody, to the point that people had trouble believing it, right? But of course it didn't actually, at the time I said, this isn't a good sign. This is bad. But it isn't necessarily a sign of total disaster, because Wizards itself turned away from the traditional book selling section, right? Like, they got rid of their distributors. They don't have distributors. I mean, they don't have the distributor that they used to have, which was the real distributor. They have a few books that they send out via these, like, smaller company distributors that are not reliable. And some books are probably in the bookstores. Because, I mean, I guess there are some, because I think it was like about 3,000 that sold, right? Which is just terrible, right? Hey, Domino, are you trying to come up? Sorry, guys, I got Domino I think she wants to come up here. Come on. I said to everyone, if you want to, you can come up. There she is. Hey, Domino. How are you? There's a problem with Domino. She likes looking at screens, right? So she's trying to get to the other side of the screen, not where I'm filming. Because unlike both my previous cats, Chungus and Meatball, Domino actually realizes, like, she looks at the screens, right? Like, Domino, Meatball and Chungus, they didn't see, they'd see movement on the screen, I assume, but they just didn't care, right? Whereas Domino looks at it and says, oh, that's a cat. I guess she looks at a picture of herself, for example, or a reflection of herself, or she sees something moving and she wants to paw at it. But anyways, there she is. She's so cute and very clever. So we were saying they were selling the books, right? And they were selling abysmally bad. But even I had to, or rather intentionally, I had to say, well, hang on, because what they're counting on making all their big sales in is, oh, she went down. She can't jump up, but she can jump down. So that's it. That's all the dominoes you get today. Even Wizards themselves were saying, no, our business now is virtual tabletop. We are not they are not a pen and paper tabletop company anymore. They're a virtual tabletop company. So it made sense that they wouldn't care about making any great efforts. In fact, this is all they're doing with the publishing was to, like, try to placate some of the people probably and get some review copies out there and stuff like that, right? So it wasn't a definitive. I agree, it wasn't a good sign, right? Because a good sign would have been if they'd sold 100,000 copies or something, you know. But no, but it also wasn't necessarily Doom, right? But given that the VTT isn't out, and given that Roll20 does exist, I think we found Doom now, because ironically, this was in a recent video, a recent Wizards of the Coast video, where the person who replaced Kyle Brink, I forget her name, the woman who replaced Kyle Brink, was talking about how great they're doing, ironically. And I think because these people are stupid and they think you're stupid, right? So they constantly, you know, stupid people of the managerial class constantly underestimate the intelligence of everybody else and vastly overestimate their own intelligence, right? They do that all the time. So they think, these people are stupid. We're going to twist around these words and convince them all that we're doing great when actually we're failing. And that is exactly what she tried to do. Because she got on a video and she talked about how well the new edition, the D&D 2024, or whatever you want to call it. I liked it when it was 1 D&D, but I guess now it's D&D 2024, which is ridiculous because it's 2025 and it still hasn't finished coming out. How well it's doing on Roll20. On Roll20, she said, 3.6 million characters have been made. And, you know, you listen to that, and I mean, like, I can understand why a mid-wit managerial class person would think this is going to fool everyone. The problem is the word everyone, right? Because it's going to fool some people. They're going to go, wow, okay, so there's already 3.6 million people playing 2024 D&D. And first off, that's obviously untrue, right? Because this is just characters that get created, right? A lot of people might buy a game and might create a character. In fact, odds are if you're on Roll20, you're going to be creating multiple characters, right? So those 3.6 million might actually only be 3 million, or they might be 2.4 million, right? Or they might be 1.8 million, depending on how many characters they're trying to create, you know. But the bigger deal is that that Roll20 has 20 million people on it. And what this actually means is that of those 20 million people, of which, let's say most of them, I mean, there might be a few people on Roll20 who don't play any D&D at all, right? Neither 5th edition nor an earlier edition nor D&D old school nor anything, right? They're there, I don't know, they're there because of GURPS or something, which I don't even know if Roll20 has GURPS, because I'm not on Roll20. But there's 20 million people who are. At most, 3.6 million have jumped over to the new edition, which is a disastrous figure, right? That's a terrible, terrible figure. That means that would mean that at most 15%, let's assume that the Roll20 population is so intensely consisting of people who play D&D to some degree that it counts as 100%, right? So that would mean that only about 17.5%, let's say, percent of D&D players have taken in the D&D 2024. Now you could say, well, there's 20 million users, but they're not all there anymore. Yeah, but that's also part of the problem, right? Like those people also obviously are, because if they're not there on Roll20, they can't be on the VTT, and they obviously didn't buy the physical books from a bookstore, right? So where are they, right? No matter what, this looks really awful, right? It looks absolutely terrible, and I think that it is a very clear sign that the new books are not hitting the mark. Yeah, and of course, with all of the nonsense that they've had in them, that's not surprising to anyone. And everybody's making there's the usual suspects. There's guys like me who are going to be critical of Wizards of the Coast as long as they are under woke control, right? But there are a lot of people who are not woke, or who are not anti-woke, that are now criticizing the new books. That used to be like the fanboys of Wizards, right? And there are people who who are all in on 5th edition and big boosters that are now, maybe they're not criticizing the new edition, but they're just ignoring it and they're going off to do their own thing, and they're shutting down, right? There's this huge crisis apparently going on, I've been told, in the 5e D&D YouTube universe, right? Where a whole bunch of game streams are being abandoned, which means that the bubble has popped, right? The fad is over, which is also bad news for Wizards, right? That's a terribly bad news, because I think that if the Wizards was relying on fad power, on the power of D&D being fashionable for this edition to sell really well, they're screwed, right? So those guys are going, but also like YouTube commentators, the 5th edition commentators, the ones whose most of their videos are, they say it's about D&D, but what they really mean is D&D 5e. Those people's channels are collapsing apparently, right? They're losing massive amounts of views. YouTube is ignoring them, and a whole bunch of them have quit, which is very interesting. Now, I don't know about my fellow OSR commentators, but I had one of the best months I've had last month, in terms of almost everything, right? I made really good sales. I'll mention that in the months prior, like in the last few months before, well, these would have been, I guess, the December sales, right? So in the last few months before that, there had been a decline, right? It was because of the U.S. economy, and now suddenly someone gets elected and everything is getting really good again, right? And my YouTube channel had really great views on the videos, and I don't think I wasn't doing much very different in the videos. I think I was on the ball, but I try to be on the ball all the time, right? And so I'm doing really well, but they're doing really badly. Why? Because the floor has collapsed on the D&D fashionable aspect. I think it's about to not be. I'm not saying it's going to be uncool, right? But it's no longer the cool thing that people are talking about, right? It's not the thing that got it, and it makes sense, right? Like, how long ago did Stranger Things start, right? Because that's when that started, and I think that was like what, 7-8 years ago, right? Like, how long? I don't remember the starting year of Stranger Things. That whenever that year was, that was the year that D&D became a fad. It's not Critical Role. It was Stranger Things, right? And that's when the D&D market exploded, right? Because 5th edition did really well versus 4th edition in its first couple of years, but it was only when Stranger Things picked up that it really got the ball rolling, and then Critical Role jumped into it and stuff like that. But the point is, all that's gone now, all of it. So again, I was right, and of course, if this had been something really worthwhile that they had produced, like if their new edition was good, and if it wasn't just a bunch of garbage woke art, BDSM inspired safety tools, Mexican orcs, and apparently non-existent orcs in the monster manual, right? You can't actually consider orcs monsters at all anymore, according to them. That's forbidden because to them orcs are Mexicans. And so you're saying Mexicans are monsters if you say that orcs are monsters. This is their logic. This is how these people think, right? And this is why everything they make is a disaster, and why they are failing. So once again, I was right. And I know that for some of you that's not a big deal. But there are people that predict me to fail, and I love telling that to them. So I'm not saying it to you if you haven't predicted for me to fail. If you know that I'm generally okay with my predictions, right? But the people that are like, oh, the pundit doesn't know anything, right? then this happens, and that's what I live for, frankly. It's wonderful. All right, guys, I guess that's everything for today. If you like this video, please share it. Please hit the like button. Please send it anywhere you think people will find it interesting, or anywhere people will get pissed off about it. And if you enjoy my work, well, be sure to subscribe. And check out all of my products. I've got the Dark Albions there, but besides that, all my other games are going to be in the list in the description below. And be sure, I don't think I'll do a full video between now and then, so be sure to check out on Sunday night, 9 p.m. probably. I'll advise if not, 9 p.m. Eastern. I will be doing the RPG Pundit Encounter. I don't know who it'll be with, but it's going to be with someone, goddammit. So there we are. And currently smoking, or about to start smoking actually, because as you see it's unlit, Stanwell 2019 Pipe of the Year.